Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for making the time to join us today. This is the Suicide Awareness and Prevention Committee. It is Wednesday, June the 7th. It's a little bit after 3 o'clock, 3:12 to be exact. I do want to announce that we do not have a quorum of the individuals on the committee that have been appointed by the council members in their respective districts. Therefore, we will not be taking action on any items. We will proceed with the agenda for discussion purposes, but no action will be taken. And I just wanted to announce that for everyone. So we will now call this meeting to order. And like I said, we do not have a quorum, so there's no need for a roll call. Ms. Maria Strain, I want to thank her for being supportive of this committee and keeping all of the members in line as far as when the meeting is and where it will be. The next item is the reflection. And I wanted to keep this on the agenda because I believe that this is something we need as much support and direction as we can get when we're talking about this particular topic. So if you will allow me a moment, we can do a reflection. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for your blessings. Thank you for giving us life, for allowing us to come together this day so that we can learn from one another and empower each other to do better in our community for the benefit of others and those around us. Join us as we share this time. In your name I pray, Jesus Christ. So, public comments. I don't think that, excuse me. Under public comments, citizens are required to notify members of their intent to comment prior to the start of the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Should there be more than 3 people who wish to speak on a particular issue, they need to select not more than 3 representatives to speak for them, and the presiding officer may limit the public comments further in the interest of an orderly meeting. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Any public comments? No public comments, thank you. The purpose of this committee and its membership. If all of you have the agenda in front of you, you can see on the left margin that we have the membership of appointed members by the city council members and the mayor. And these were the individuals that, some of them could not be with us because of other scheduled appointments. So this is the meeting, the committee members. In addition to that, we also have members at large that have not been appointed by city council or the mayor, but they have been working very focused on the initiative about creating awareness of the 988. And the purpose is exactly that, to empower people in the community about the resources that are available so that we can hopefully prevent mental health, people that are in crisis with mental health or suicide in our community. So prevention is key. And how do we do that? We're trying to do that through education and awareness. Does anybody have any questions about the committee purpose and the membership? I know the membership, the at-large membership, has been working together for a while now, close to a year, not over a year. And we will see some of the highlights, or I will share some of the highlights of the work that has been done with us. The next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action. There will not be an action. So I want to go ahead and invite you to give us a report on the statistics.
Good afternoon, Ricardo Gonzalez, the Chief of our Police Department. Here with Sergeant Javier Rodriguez, who's the supervisor for our mental health unit. And once you allow me to go into my presentation, you see why his presence here is very important. Excuse me. So our main objective here for the police department is to provide information. We're the boots on the ground, but we are the ones that are seeing the effects, and people take drastic measures to address whatever crises that they're dealing with. Obviously, a lot of people do get the help in time and don't go through the act, but still, background or information or demographics, I believe gives you a good sense, a good grasp of the situation where we need to dedicate our resources to be more effective. With that in mind, I'll start with the presentation, which is pretty much statistics on suicides and suicide investigations. As you can see on the screen, we go back to 2018, and that's right about the time that we started the conversation with the health department for initiating the committee. Obviously, now it's become more formal, but back then it was very informal, and for a while it paused because of the pandemic. And during the pandemic years, you can see that our numbers went down drastically in 2020, 2021, they started climbing back up, and 2022, they got back to the pre-pandemic numbers. What we're seeing now this year is we've seen a decrease, or at least up to now. As you can see, we'd only had very few service calls. The reports taken is a fraction of what we've seen in the past. The deaths are, I know we're only halfway in the year, but you can see that we're not at the pace that we've seen other years. The new item that I'll be presenting with is these emergency detention numbers. We recently started tracking these, and now with the creation of our mental health unit, what these individuals do, they don't do anything that we haven't done before, is to prevent a crisis or direct people to help or act by issuing out emergency detentions or holding people against their will for those who are a danger to themselves or others. Now with the mental health unit, they're doing the same thing, but they're directly collaborating with our social workers, our stakeholders from Border Region to SCAN to the health department, of course, all of you present, and I don't want to miss anybody, the school districts, you name it. Depending on the situation, each individual falls under different programs to include the background, the reason why, how they want to commit the act, whether it's substance abuse, existing diagnosed mental health problems. Obviously, there's a program specifically for that. So they become well trained on the services out there, and they act in connecting their services faster and more efficient. And as you can see, they're becoming very active. Our emergency detentions have increased. Do we think that we're having a bigger problem? No, but them getting involved and unfortunately holding people against their will, getting on service immediately is preventing these actual acts where people are on their own and we're just responding when it's already too late. At least that's my deductive reasoning for what I'm seeing on stats, which is a victory, I think, for all of you. For 22 and 23, this is what we've seen year to date. As you can see, we've had 6 deaths. The last 2 happening on the 2nd of this month. We had them back to back. March being the most active, and June seems to be very active as well. And I think that's the trend that we've seen. We discussed this before, where people usually believe that the holiday season is when people are depressed and they act or they commit to committing suicide. But no, we pretty much seen the trend earlier in the year between March and June. The next slide is going to show our suicide investigations. I believe there's 20 on there. Are these the only calls that we respond to? No, but these are the calls that people actually took the step by actually, whether they lost their lives or not, took that step to try to commit the act. And I'm not going to talk about each one in particular, only the ones highlighted in red. The ones highlighted in red are actual deaths. The rest, as you can see, what we've seen before, mainly males between the 30 to 58 age range. We do have some juveniles, and you can see patterns. Females usually see pills, the adult females. the younger kids usually hanging, males, especially those that do commit the act, is through gunshot wounds. And for those that are not familiar with locations, to me, a location is a big thing because it gives us a good idea where the problems in our city is. Geographically, we can see and focus where our message needs to be, but that's gonna come at the end with a heat map. The first case of the year happened on February 8th. This happened mid-afternoon. The deceased, male, 50-year-old, ex-police officer. Well, he was a police officer at the time. He was an active police officer. He was actually a union president. Never expressed any issues or wanting any help for anybody. He was just people considered just another happy-go-lucky member of the department. During the time that this happened, he didn't show up to work that day. People got concerned, his coworkers, they went to check on him, they called family members, and sure enough, he was discovered with a gunshot wound to the chest. At the time, when we learned from the family, he was going through a lot of stress, so internal problems happening with the union. And obviously, this is a time where we saw a lot of change in our department. The politics of things getting to chief and attacking a lot of things. So from what we understand, he fell under the pressure and did this. Second case, March 25th. This happened early hours. Another adult male, 60-year-old. On this case, the wife had gone to a family gathering. She had left because she had been arguing with the deceased for during the day to avoid any confrontation. She left. She came back, obviously, to her house to go to sleep. And again, the domestic disturbance continued. She stepped out, called police for assistance. Once the officer arrived, as they were conversing or talking to the complainant, they identified the deceased hanging from a rope on the carport. The third one, it happened in April 4th. This is at the Gun Club Arena. Eric Marañon, a 45-year-old male, ex-firefighter, went to the arena, rented a handgun, asked they had individual rounds to sell, sell the boxes. So he bought a box, got loaded around and took his life there at the shooting range area. From what we understand, he had texted his loved one. They had been going through some problems in the relationship, said his goodbyes and committed the act. On April 23rd, we saw our next one. This happened late afternoon, early evening. 45-year-old male with Mr. Jose Hasso, family. He was living with family. House, I believe, in the rear of the property. They would check on him periodically. They went to check on him. They called him, no answer. They knocked on the door, no answer. They tried to force themselves in. He had barricaded himself, locked the windows, the front door with a mattress. They were able to use enough force to gain entry. As soon as they did, they saw him with a gunshot wound to the head. Mr. Hasso, the reason they would check up on him is he was a border region patient, suffered from multiple mental disorders, and had actually attempted to take his life on a previous occasion. The next one, this is one of two that happened on the 2nd of June. The first one happened at 4 in the morning. Mr. Ocasio, 33-year-old male, had been out drinking with friends at a local bar. After he closed on the bar, he invited other friends to his residence. They're consuming alcohol and some drugs from where I'm standing. He suddenly starts talking about wanting to die. People, his friends, thought it was just he was just acting out, wanting to get attention. He suddenly goes, gets a gun, puts it to his head. Happened so fast, they thought he was joking around, but he actually pulled the trigger and killed himself in front of him. There was no mention from family or the investigation that he had ever talked about it sober, taking his life. The last one that we saw for the year, again, on the 2nd of June, this happened 12 hours later, at 4 p.m. Mr. Banda, 30-year-old male, took his life by shooting himself in the head. Mr. Banda had been having marital problems. On this day was a Friday. Him and the wife leave to work like any other day. He leaves work unexpectedly late morning. The wife doesn't know, but he noticed that from his phone that he was at the residence, at their apartment. When she leaves work, she goes looking for him and finds him deceased there at the apartment. Again, marital problems is a reason. That's believed why he took his life. This is a heat map. This includes all the calls relating to suicides, where just people making comments where we were taking that actual step. And as you can see, we still see the concentration in Central Laredo, South Laredo area. And that is the end of the presentation. If anybody has questions or wants to find out a little bit more about trends, mental health unit, or any of these actual investigations that you think would help the efforts, by all means, we're here, we're accessible, whether it's here during the meeting or afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Does anybody have any questions or observations or comments for the Chief and the Laredo Police Department?
Nobody has a comment, but all of us in this room have a confidentiality in our spirit, not talking about any of these. I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you, sister.
I have a question regarding the emergency detention. That's only for PD, correct? So
Yes.
the number's probably a lot higher when you combine with Sheriff's Department?
They're slightly higher. They don't remember the Sheriff's Department.
More than that.
In our city, they really take care of rural areas, so their population, even though geographically it's a large area, population-wise is very small. So I'm sure they have some numbers, and if that is the case, maybe we can reach out and include their numbers so we can get a better idea of what the area looks like, and we can inject them. I'm sure they can share them with us, but it's going to be minimal.
Okay. Yeah, because I know they do the EDs.
Right, so their role when it comes to emergency detentions, they actually have a grant where they have personnel to actually do the transports from our city to whatever facility the individual's going to be accepted at.
Mhm.
So that's really their role, the transporting.
Very good question.
And mind you, when it comes to ED, I'm sure this was
No,
not.
that's fine.
Just because you see that high number, that doesn't mean that they all end up in a facility. Only a small fraction and up in a facility. The majority through assistance of whether it's family or because at the time they were under the influence of alcohol or some substance. By the time they come down from that influence, once assessed, it's determined that they didn't really have a plan or they were at risk to commit any harm to themselves. The rest through treatment locally or some other type of service are able to manage the situation, and very few are actually committed.
Very good. Anybody else have a question or comment on the statistics that we saw today?
I have one question for those who did not pass. What's the type of follow-up by the mental health unit? And is there a way that we could help you to do those follow-ups after you've received those calls? To make sure that they're getting, help after?
So, and the Sarge, feel free to chime in if you like, but so when we were working with an emergency detention, we're gonna exercise our authority to hold them against their will. We only have a short window to hold them in a facility. Supposed to be a mental health facility, but here we don't have one, so, the hospital's been gracious enough somewhat to work with us in that situation. We get Border Region involved, and then Border Region really takes the lead when it comes to that. There's some situations, obviously, where it doesn't reach the threshold for Border Region to get involved. And that's when sometimes we get creative, even at the scene, when we have a feeling that it's not gonna reach the threshold, we start making calls to scan or anybody that we can. And for us, the more numbers or having background, educating the guys, and I welcome it. As far as what your individual programs do, to what extent you can help, we can have it in a toolbox. That way, as we're, it's not our job, right? But because of the lack of services, sometimes we take that lead because we know time is of the essence. We start kind of triaging the situation, and we start making the calls who we feel is gonna be able to help the person based on the situation, demographic, et cetera, the actual act committed or what's being voiced. That's gonna be the best one to help.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly why I asked, because at least for the Drug and Alcohol Commission, they're working on a long list of resources that are already available. And that way, maybe it could be something that the committee would be interested in creating some sort of directory. In that way, I mean, you guys, obviously, the ones that are in the front line, gonna have that directory, and it's at hand whenever you need it. You know where to dive into.
And the reason why we might be overstepping our bounds, trying to get these resources in the front end and acting as that screener is because obviously we know that crisis come and go. So the sooner we get somebody in the crisis, the better. Unfortunately, or the services that we have here, the lack of services that we have here, by the time that the actual cavalry gets triggered, sometimes it's too late. So that person obviously misses a window, goes out in the general population and start the cycle over.
Kind of answer your question. I used to do crisis for the adult unit at Puerto Rico for about 2 years. So if the individual does not merit hospitalization, the crisis worker just follow up even on weekends and holidays immediately 24 hours after. And the first call or visit, at least prior to COVID, was face-to-face, and then after that, they conduct 2 more visits, back-to-back, so it's 3 days of follow-up, whether in person or phone call, to make sure that they're okay, and that they follow up with them.
Do you have anybody here from Border Region?
No, we do not. And they normally attend the meetings, so. But that's a very good question, and I wrote it down so that we can present it to the other agencies that did not join us today. Because maybe they have, a different system that we need to learn about, so that we can be of better help. Not just to the first responders, but to the community at large. So thank you so much. That's a great question.
And for the families, like especially those that witness that individual shoot himself in front of them, like I'm sure that's traumatizing itself. So is there something that is done to help those individuals, the family members or friends that?
No, we work the scene. Obviously, there's a lot of communication goes with the family, but they're difficult because the family obviously is distraught. Even if you talk to them and guide them, they're not listening. They're in a different state of mind.
And the shock.
We had talked about it before with the committee. One of the recommendations that was made is to have someone with a pamphlet deal with the family, because they probably won't reach out right away. It's after the deal with initial, trauma that they're gonna start processing for them, then they will reach out. And by then will be hours, days, and we're long on by then. And we don't have the resources to do, case management, to do follow-up. And I think because the person's deceased, it circumvents all of you, and you guys really miss the window as well. But if we can work out a way where we can.
I mean, I'm sure there's some
There is a
that
program.
offer, that
Not on the radar.
the
There's a
grief
program to take-
counseling, there's some programs that offer grief counseling and to help with that.
Well, again, once we start developing that cheat sheet, that we can have not only the numbers, but especially the mental health unit, because they get involved in a lot of these cases with a brief description of what the capabilities of the programs are. That'll be helpful for us.
There's a program, I know I attended a conference a few years ago, it's called the LOSS program, LOSS. And they usually hold yearly conferences, and it is a team that it is a counselor, a caseworker, and they go with law enforcement the day of the suicide, like that they discover it. And I know it hasn't been brought to Laredo. I attended this conference probably in 2016. I know it's very popular in Houston, which the divisions are a lot bigger, and Dallas. Yeah, but they will go with the families. The controversy of it is that they go the day it happens, which often the reaction is very negative with the family. It's happened if an individual goes from the local mental health authority, they're gonna blame them for the cause of the suicide because they didn't provide enough help, so they won't get the appropriate help. But there is, I'll send Maria the info, I think it's called the LOSS program, and I mean, I know other cities have tweaked it a bit to make it more compatible to their communities, but usually it is a crisis worker and it is a counselor that goes with law enforcement to the scene to try and help the family.
So that's really a model for addressing these type of calls. It really started in Houston about 20 years ago. It was more to address like mental health crisis. But it's evolved into addressing any, crisis, right? And what really it is fire, police, social workers, 24/7, riding together, unmarked unit, no insignias about police, but though the police officer will be there to trigger any action that need be, the person's violence or calling the cavalry, trigger his authorization to detain somebody against their will. Obviously, you have the paramedic that screens it to circumvent somebody having to go through a medical screening before they get seen by a social worker or psychologist. A lot of teams have psychologists on board. A lot of them just have social workers. So at the scene, you're already doing everything and the help comes a lot faster. The delay in town, and really they were created with that vision. We're still trying to get grant funding, obviously, because we haven't been funded. So hopefully with these numbers, once an opportunity comes around, and if you all see it, send it our way, we'll be more than glad to put in for it, and any partners that want to join. I've seen in cities such as Abilene, I believe, Methodist Hospital was the one who wrote the grant, and they have police and fire. Other places has been, I think, Plano, the fire department. Other places Houston's been the police department. So you name it, and there's different versions of it. We can pretty much, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Once we get the funding, hopefully we get it soon, we can look at other programs tailored to what we do here. And the biggest challenge is having the 24/7 availability. I know a lot of you didn't sign up for 24/7. You're like, fire police, yeah, they're used to it. But unfortunately, these things don't just happen 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. People that need the help don't come to you. We know that, we have to go to them. So where else to catch them that window where they need the help the most? And we shoot them with everybody at once, and they're very successful. Yeah, family or the individual might hate you because they ask for help and you're taking them there because they will. But developing a good program and getting the right help, they come along, and they've been very successful. It just takes a lot of funding.
Excellent discussion, and I think that this is the purpose of this committee also to present your ideas, your observations that you've seen when you go out of town to other conferences, or even within our system. If you see some resources that can be connected so that we can better serve the community and make our first responders aware of what's happening or what can be done. That's why we're gathered today also to identify improve ways that we can help the community with the limited resources we have. And as resources grow, hopefully we can adopt a system like the one you just mentioned. So thank you for bringing that up. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that or anything else? Okay. One of the things that I failed to do, and I apologize for this, I would like to go ahead and invite, we have two of the appointed committee members present. Want them to introduce themselves, so that all of you can meet them, and then we'll go around the room so that they know who's present. So,
My name is Earl Medina. I represent District 5 Councilmember Benito Gutierrez. I'm also part of the DOC committee, just so you all know. So I also get involved with the Drug and Alcohol Commission. I'm also have my nonprofit organization called Orgullo Laredo Youth and Safe Haven. We work with a lot of youth programs involving the LGBT as well as any gender to help them and give them counseling when they're in crisis, as well as educating the parents when it comes to the opportunity of when they find out whether their son or daughter is gay. We give them those resources because we have 2 24-hour life coaches that are available to give that as well as to the reason I joined this committee was because we do run into situations that some of these teenagers come to those let's say problems of trying to go into something they shouldn't be doing. So I am a very busy person. So if any help that I could give, just reach out to me, and I'm very pleased to be in this part of this group.
thank you and welcome. Thank you for being part of this committee.
Thank you, Dr. Basan. Thank you for the presentation. My name is Gabriel Martinez. I am appointed by Dr. Tyler King from District 6. I'm a licensed professional counselor associate, soon to be full on LPC soon. And yeah, I work at Gateway Community Health Center, District Center. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much for joining us and look forward to continuing to work together. Now let's go around the room. Should you want to introduce your group team member, introduce himself.
Sergeant Javier Rodriguez. I'm currently overseeing mental health. The previous sergeant, the lawyer, Sergeant Garcia. I've taken over his position since mid to late April. The night it's 2013. Still learning the process, still trying to get into part to where Sergeant Garcia got taught. But that's where I've been this past 2 months, and that's what I've been learning, that I've been trying to get into as far as all the moving parts that come into this type of situation. The thing that go on behind the scenes that we need to get in front of to prevent these type of that's me.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
This is the Health Department, epidemiologist, LDDC, and I'm the one that keeps track of all the deaths related with the
And is that sign up for the issue here? I'm trying to this committee, the drug and alcohol committee, will be very difficult. And if there's anything where you need to Facebook, we're requiring.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victoria Gutierrez. I'm a special project coordinator at Area Health Education Center. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Good afternoon, Hazel Medellin from the Area Health Education Center. I'm the Academic and Continuing Education Partner.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vicky Morales. I'm also with the Area Health Education Center, and I am the Academic and Continuing Education Programs Coordinator, and I'm also part of the Living Health Coalition.
Sister Bolton, Russian from Mercy Clinic, and also Carson Institute.
One time I worked in a center, I was hospital, the best program that worked.
I'm Mr. Rodriguez. I am a professional counselor here with the health department. I mainly work with the patient care services. Their services people who are lower income and uninsured.
I'm Juliana Morales. I'm the public health benefits supervisor. I'm in charge of the team of governance and specialists, which is bringing on 14 team members that go around the community, providing information on the services of the health department and
Right now we are promoting the COVID-19 vaccine, giving out COVID testing kits in all of the events. So you might see us, recognize us at all of your events, and yeah, anything that we can do to help, or if you have any events that you would like the public comment to be part of, please reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Eli with the Health Department and their Public Information Specialist.
Erica Lopez, Disease Intervention Manager for the Assisted Outpatient Treatment Program here with the City of Laredo Health Department, and we deal with individuals with serious mental illness.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I know that some of you I just met today. So my name is Julie Bassan. I'm the Executive Director for the Area Health Education Center. And I'm very proud to be a member of this committee and also other committees in the community. I know that all the people around this table are very, very committed to their community and understand the needs in our area. But together we've been able to do great things with the little resources. So I thank you all for being here. Like I said before, we do not have a quorum, so we cannot take action on anything. But I do want to give an update on the You're Not Alone awareness campaign or activities. And I'm sure that if you have not been aware of the campaign, I think all of you have been aware of it, right? And thank you for joining us at the park when we kind of announced that we were going to start doing this every month. And thanks to our Mayor, Dr. Victor Trevino, who proclaimed the year of 2023 as a 988 awareness year in our community. And since then, the group that came together agreed that every last Friday of the month, of each month, we would create awareness, either by wearing our buttons or wearing the colors or talking to somebody about the 988. We've been very fortunate to get the support of some of our media partners, as well as some of the institutions that have the digital billboards. They share the message in the community. So we want to continue to build on that. We want people to know what 988 is about. And I think when we have everybody talking about it on the last Friday of the month, I think we will have done our job, at least to create awareness so that people know that they have a place to call, text, or chat when they need someone 24 hours a day in English and Spanish. And so through the Area Health Education Center, we were able to purchase some t-shirts, and we still have some for those of you that would like some. And of course, we have some buttons, even though I think we just placed another order. But you're welcome to obtain those, and the buttons are at no cost, but the t-shirts, we do not have a grant for this. We're just, we're charging whatever we paid for the t-shirt. I know that we also share the link to several resources, including the artwork for the banner, for the flyers, for some of the pictures, some of the raw footage that was taken at the park the day of the event back in March. But if you need anything to create something within your agency or the people that you serve, please let us know. I know that the health department also designed a signature logo, and we also shared that with you in the link so that you can take it and apply it to your signature on your emails. So that's what I wanted to give a report on what we have done so far. And how did we come up with that? Well, back in January, I believe the committee met and there was a lot of discussion about we needed to do something to create awareness because the 988 was available, but not many people knew about it. At that time, the people that were present started saying, well, let's do this and let's do that. Everybody had great ideas. And together we agreed to start it on March the 1st. And from then to now, I believe that each one of the committee members has been doing a great job. And, we do have the support of the leadership in our community at various levels. And together we can continue to work. And so I invite you to stay tuned for the next meeting. I know Maria's going to visit with the other members that could not join us to make sure that, one, they've all been sworn in and that they are aware of the fact that we need to continue meeting on a monthly basis. And that really is it. I don't know if anybody has any comments about the 988 or anything in particular.
I did want to just remind people, next week, the Texas Suicide Prevention Symposium will be happening from Tuesday to Thursday, and I know that it's available also virtually. So if anybody wants to log in, I can go ahead and send Maria that, registration link and you guys can log in. I believe Dr. Basan will be there, I will be there, and I believe somebody from Puerto Region as well. But it is available online and it's quite impactful. I attended it last year virtually and it's very, very impactful.
So thank you for reminding us about that. If you can share that with Maria, and then she'll send it to all of us. Because I think everybody signed in with your email, so we can go ahead and forward that to you. Anybody else have anything? Yes, Chief?
Ms. Basan, is there any way that we can get the numbers of the 988 calls that are being received from our community? That way we can track how much the system is being used or how much impact the awareness campaign, how successful it is.
I did send an email requesting that information, and hopefully they'll get back to us. I don't know if that's possible, that they would be able to do that or not, but we asked, so I will keep you informed of that. I know also the last couple of months, we've had interviews at the radio stations and the TV stations. So if any of you want to attend and do an interview, committee members, I would love for y'all to, if you're available in person. Help us with that, so we'll review the record. And of course, everybody's welcome to do that. I think that's all I have. There's nothing new to report. I just wanted to give you an update. And thank you so much for your time, for being here. It's a pleasure to meet both of you and Jonathan, send buttons out to you, Victoria, to bring up button for the committee members. So that y'all can learn. And I'm gonna present you to the audience. So I'll be stop by, probably for an appointment, we're going to also stop by our office.
Thank
And that concludes our meeting. Thank you so much.